The vanishing the first sign was silence. Not the peaceful kind, but a silence that stretched across the stars. Cold, unexplainable, terrifying. The fleet of Earth had been the pride of humanity. 20 massive carriers, dozens of escort ships, and countless smaller craft. They had entered the Xylan expanse, a region of space so vast and unstable that even the bravest alien explorers refused to chart it. And then, in a single moment, they were gone. No distress calls, no wreckage, no drifting debris, only silence. The galaxy had seen human fleets before. They were smaller than the great armadas of the Avar Dominion, less advanced than the crystalline warships of the Thal, but they were something far more dangerous. Unpredictable. Humans did not fight like the other species. They were reckless, daring, stubborn. They had survived every war thrown at them. And now, suddenly, they had disappeared. On the planet Sera, an emerald world lit by twin suns, the news spread like wildfire. At the Academy of Interstellar Relations, where young aliens studied politics and strategy, whispers filled the lecture halls. "They are gone," said Professor Leorin, his 3 eyes blinking nervously as he addressed his students. The entire Terran fleet vanished in the expanse. No signals. No survivors. The room erupted into chaos. A young alien named Kale, his blue-scaled skin shimmering under the sunlight streaming through the crystalline windows, leaned forward. "Gone? That is impossible. Humans do not simply vanish." Beside him sat a human, Elias Vance, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes and scars along his jaw. He had once been a soldier, now studying diplomacy. He didn't join the chatter. He only stared out the window, jaw clenched. He knew the fleet. He had served with them. Some of his closest friends had been aboard those ships. Professor Leorin cleared his throat. The Dominion Council believes this is the end of humanity's expansion. Without their fleet, Earth is defenseless. Some say, perhaps it is justice. Humanity has challenged too many empires. Kale shot up from his seat. Justice? They were our allies. Without them, who will hold back the Dominion's aggression? Who will stand against the Syndicate raiders? The professor raised a clawed hand. "Calm yourself, Kale. The galaxy is large. One species vanishes, another rises. That is the way of history." But Elias finally spoke, his voice low, heavy. "No, that's not how humans work." The room went silent. Every eye turned to him. Elias stood, his posture stiff, his voice like steel. "If there's no wreckage, no signals, no proof of destruction, then the fleet isn't gone. Not really. If you think Earth will just vanish quietly, you don't. No, my people." Kale's frills twitched, a sign of approval. He had always admired the human's stubbornness. The professor frowned. "Then where are they, Elias Vance? Where is your mighty fleet?" Elias turned his gaze back to the stars outside the window. "That," he whispered, "is the question that should terrify you all." Because deep down, Elias knew something that no one else dared admit. Humans did not simply disappear. They waited. And when they returned, the galaxy would never be the same. The Council's decision, the High Council of the Dominion, met in a chamber carved from living crystal, towering spires of light refracting in endless patterns. It was said the chamber itself listened, storing every word spoken within its walls for eternity. Elias Vance had never been inside before. The scale of it was overwhelming. Hundreds of delegates seated in rings that climbed upward like a coliseum, each representing a world or empire. At the center, suspended by gravitic fields, floated the Grand Speaker, an aged being of the Vaner species. Its translucent body pulsed with faint light as it addressed the assembly. "The matter before us," the speaker intoned, "is the status of Terra. Their fleet has disappeared within the expanse. Their colonies are silent. Reports suggest Earth itself is vulnerable. The question, shall they be considered extinct? The chamber buzzed with murmurs, the sound like waves crashing in a cavern. Elias sat stiffly in the section reserved for students and observers, Kale at his side. Both wore plain robes of the academy, but Elias felt exposed out of place. Every instinct screamed at him to stand, to shout, to do something. Kale's frills twitched nervously. They can't be serious. Declaring an entire species extinct. Without proof? They are serious, Elias muttered. And if they do it, Earth loses all recognition, all protection. Anyone could attack us, legally. One delegate, a massive Avar general, stood, his armor clanked as his mandibles clicked. The humans were reckless. They meddled in conflicts that were not theirs. Their absence proves their weakness. Let the galaxy move on. Another, a Thau envoy, her crystalline body shimmering with disdain, chimed in. The humans disrupted trade routes, defied treaties, and spread their colonies too far. Their end was inevitable. Elias clenched his fists. His heart hammered. As he listened to alien after alien condemn humanity as arrogant, dangerous, expendable, finally, Kale could stand no more. He rose abruptly, his voice carrying across the chamber despite his student's rank. You speak of them as if they are gone forever, but you do not know. Humans do not vanish. They endure. They fight. To declare them extinct is not only premature, it is foolish. The chamber erupted in laughter, derision, some with pity. The speaker raised a tendril of light. You are out of order, young Kale. Sit down. But before he could move, Elias was already on his feet. His voice cut through. The noise like a blade. My people are not extinct, he said. His tone was calm, but his words carried iron. You can write us off on your scrolls. You can erase our name from your archives, but you will regret it. Because when humanity returns, and we will, you'll remember this day. You'll remember how quickly you all turned your backs. A hush fell. The counselors regarded him with a mix of irritation and unease. Humans rarely spoke in this chamber, and when they did, it was usually to negotiate, not to threaten. The speaker's body pulsed faintly. Elias Vance of Earth, you presume much. Do you claim knowledge of your fleet's fate? Elias hesitated. He had no proof, only instinct. But his father had once told him, a human's greatest weapon is not a gun, nor a ship, it is conviction. I claim this, Elias said, voice steady. If you declare us extinct, you will regret it. Not because of vengeance, not because of war, but because when the storms come, and they will, there will be no one left to stand beside you. The speaker regarded him for a long moment. Then it turned, its voice echoing. The vote stands. All in favor of declaring Terra defunct, raise your marks. Dozens of sigils lit up across the chamber. Almost unanimous. Asterisk Kale sank back into his seat, eyes wide with disbelief. Elias sat slowly, his stomach turning to stone. The decision was made. On paper, Earth was dead. That night, Elias walked the upper terraces of Sarah's capital. The twin suns had set, and the city glowed with bioluminescent towers that pulsed like veins of a living creature. The air smelled faintly of spice from the markets below, but Elias barely noticed that Kale walked beside him, silent for a time before finally speaking. You know they are wrong, but how do we prove it? Elias shook his head. I don't know yet, but humans don't vanish. Something happened in the expanse, something big. And I'm going to find out. Kale gave him a sideways look. You mean we? Don't think you'll face this alone. Elias allowed the faintest smile. Kale's loyalty was strange, but steady. You'll regret saying that. Perhaps, Kale said, frills twitching. But it will be a glorious regret. They shared a brief laugh, though Eli's mind was heavy. He needed proof. Something. Anything got. And then, fate handed him a thread dot the next day. Elias returned. To the Academy archives, an endless vault of holographic records and ancient star charts. He scanned through reports of the fleet's last transmissions, official council records, navigation logs. All clean. Too clean. Hours passed. His eyes burned. He rubbed his temples, ready to give up, when Kale leaned over, pointing with a claw. There. That sequence. Do you see? Elias squinted. A faint irregularity in the data, buried inside a Dominion relay log. Almost invisible, but it pulsed in a pattern. Morse code. His heart leapt. He adjusted the filter, isolating the faint beeps. Words began to form. Still here. Do not trust. Watching. Elias' breath caught. His pulse pounded in his ears. Humans had left a message. Hidden. Buried so deep only someone stubborn enough to comb through endless logs would ever see it. Kale. Elias whispered. They're alive. Kale's frills spread wide, a gesture of shock and awe. Alive? But then where? Before he could finish, the archive lights flickered. Security alarms pulsed. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. Unauthorized access detected. Step away from the terminal. Elias froze. Dominion security forces stormed the room, weapons humming. The message flickered, fading fast. If it was erased now, it might be gone forever. He had one chance. Kale, Elias hissed. Buy me 10 seconds. Kale's frills snapped tight. 10 seconds? Very well. Make them count. With a roar, Kale launched himself at the nearest guard, and Elias dove for the terminal, fingers flying as the alarms screamed louder. Asterisk. Into the expanse the Dominion guards were fast. 2 fast dot blue energy bolts seared past Elias' head as Kale slammed into the nearest soldier, knocking him sprawling. The alien's weapon clattered across the crystal floor. Elias didn't hesitate. He grabbed the terminal's data crystal, ripped it free, and shoved it into his satchel. The encoded message still pulsed faintly within it. Proof. Hope. Vance. Kale shouted, grappling with another guard. Now would be an excellent time. To run. Elias sprinted toward the exit as Kale broke free, sweeping his tail to knock 2 guards off balance. Together, they burst into the corridor, alarms wailing across the academy. They didn't stop running until they reached the upper platforms, where sleek student skiffs floated on gravitic moorings. The guard shouts echoed behind them. Elias jumped into the nearest craft, its controls glowing faintly. Get in. Kale vaulted beside him. Do you even know how to fly this? Elias hit the ignition. The skiff lurched, engines whining. How hard can it be? Human last words, Kale muttered, gripping the side. The skiff shot forward, weaving through the traffic streams of Sarah's skies. Behind them, armored patrol ships lifted from the academy spires, lights blazing. Elias shoved the throttle. Forward, heart pounding. Hold on. The skiff dove between glowing towers, skimmed over plazas, then shot out over the open ocean. The patrol ships followed, weapons charging. Kale's frills flared. We cannot outrun them. Elias' eyes narrowed. He spotted a cargo hauler ahead, its massive bulk slowly lifting from the docks. Then we don't outrun them. He angled the skiff sharply, skimming so close to the hauler's hull that sparks flew from their stabilizers. The patrol ships followed, too close. One clipped the hauler's side and spiraled out of control, exploding in a bloom of fire. The others pulled back, wary. Not bad, Kale admitted, gripping his seat. Elias grinned grimly. Not dead. That's enough for me. By nightfall, they reached the city's outskirts, hiding the stolen skiff beneath overgrown canopies. From There, they made their way to the docks of Sarah's outer rim, a place where smugglers, raiders, and desperate traders thrived. The docks smelled of fuel and salt. Neon lights flickered above stalls selling contraband tech. Rough-looking aliens eyed them suspiciously as they passed. Cale kept his voice low. What now? Elias pulled the data crystal from his satchel, holding it up. The message came. From the Expanse. If the fleet's alive, that's where we'll find them. Cale's frills twitched uneasily. The Expanse is cursed. Ships vanish there. Worlds crumble. You would fly into it willingly? Elias met his gaze, steady. If. That's where my people are? Yes. Cale studied him for a long moment, then sighed. And so will I, though. I suspect I am going to regret this again. They found a ship, a worn exploration vessel, hull scarred from years of service. Its owner, a four-armed trader named Drask, was reluctant to part with it until Elias showed him a pouch of gems Cale had stolen from the Academy treasury. Pleasure doing business, Drask said with a toothy grin as he waddled off. Cale smirked. Sometimes breaking rules is necessary. Elias shook his head. You've been around me too long. The next day, the vessel lifted off, engines groaning as it left Sarah's atmosphere. Beyond lay the void, endless, silent, vast. Sat at the controls, Cale beside him. The ship smelled of oil and old metal, a stark contrast to the pristine crafts of the Academy. But it was theirs. He set the course. The star charts showed the Expanse as a swirling region of space, a storm, of gravity wells and dark matter clouds. Entire fleets had been lost there. Cale's frills flattened. This is madness. Elias smirked faintly. Yeah, but it's human madness. The ship jumped into warp, stars stretching into streaks of light. The Expanse was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. When they emerged from warp, the void around them shimmered with fractured light. Space itself seemed torn, as if reality had been shattered into shards of glass. Massive storms of glowing dust twisted through the dark, lightning, arcing silently across the void. Their sensors flickered, struggling to hold a stable reading. Cale whispered, awed. This place, it feels alive. Elias' jaw tightened. Or hungry. They pressed deeper. Hours passed. Sometimes they caught glimpses of wreckage, shattered alien ships drifting aimlessly, their hulls warped as if crushed by invisible hands. But then they saw something different. Human wreckage. A Terran escort frigate, its hull battered, drifting lifeless. The sight hit Elias like a punch to the chest. He swallowed hard, forcing himself forward. They boarded. The frigate's corridors were dark, silent, airless. Elias' boots echoed as he walked, Cale's claws scratching against the metal. Bodies floated in zero gravity. Humans, lifeless, their faces pale. Elias closed his eyes briefly, then pressed on. But near the bridge, they found something strange. Not destruction. Not chaos. Abandonment. The ship had been powered down deliberately. Systems offline, cores removed, weapons dismantled. It was as if the crew had simply walked away. Cale's frills flared uneasily. This makes no sense. Elias stared at the empty bridge, his pulse racing. They left on purpose. Before Cale could answer, the ship shook violently. Elias whipped around. Through the viewport. He saw it, a massive silhouette emerging from the storm, dark against the glowing void. A ship, but like none he had ever seen. Its hull was angular, jagged, painted black as obsidian. No insignia, no lights. Silent. Cale hissed. What is that? Elias' stomach nodded. Not Dominion, not Thal, not anyone I know. The strange vessel moved closer, impossibly silent, until its shadow swallowed the frigate hull. Then, With a burst of light, grappling beams locked onto their small exploration craft docked. Outside, Cale's frills snapped tight. "They've caught our ship." Elias gritted his teeth. "Then we're not running." The frigate trembled as the alien vessel pulled them both in, deeper into its shadow. Darkness closed around them. The last thing Elias saw before the docking clamp sealed was a faint, unmistakable outline on the larger vessel's hull. Scratched. Hidden, but clear to human eyes, dot an Earth Fleet insignia. His heart stopped. "Cale," he whispered, voice shaking. "That's one of ours." Asterisk ghosts of steel. The docking clamp sealed with a thunderous clank, echoing through the silent corridors of the abandoned Terran frigate. Elias and Cale stood on the bridge, the dim emergency lights flickering red. Across their faces, the sound of heavy machinery vibrated through the hull, pulling them deeper into the massive shadow ship that had ensnared them. Cale's frills were flat against his skull. "We are prisoners now." Elias' jaw tightened. "Maybe, or maybe we're finally where we need to be." The ship shuddered one last time before settling into silence. Then, with a hiss, the main airlock opened. Bright light spilled in, harsh after the frigate's darkness. Silhouettes filled the doorway. Armored figures, tall, broad, human. Their rifles gleamed, unfamiliar in design, sleeker and sharper, and any standard Terran issue Elias had ever seen. "Drop your weapons." A voice barked, deep, authoritative. Elias slowly raised his hands. He had no weapon, only a knife tucked in his boot, but he wasn't about to test these soldiers. Cale mirrored him, though his frills twitched nervously. "They are human?" The soldiers moved in, surrounding them with military precision. One lowered his weapon just enough to look Elias in the eye. His helmet visor retracted, revealing a scarred face, weathered but unmistakably Terran. "My God," Elias whispered. "You're alive." The soldier gave him a long, hard stare. "Alive, yes. But you shouldn't be here." Two of them seized. Elias by the arms, another restrained Cale. "Wait." Elias protested. "I'm Elias Vance, Terran Defense Corps, discharged. I served on the Vigilant." The leader cut him off. "Names don't matter. You weren't supposed to find us." They were marched through the corridors of the massive vessel. The interior was unlike any Terran design Elias knew. The walls were dark, plated with some alloy that seemed to drink in the light. Strange symbols marked bulkheads. Yet, woven between the alien materials, Elias recognized human engineering, pressure doors, conduit systems, familiar interface panels. It was a fusion. Human design merged with something else. Cale whispered as they walked, frills twitching nervously. "This is not a Dominion ship, not Thal. And yet it is not fully human either." Elias nodded subtly. "That's what scares me." The soldiers escorted them into a chamber that overlooked a vast hangar. Elias' breath caught. Hundreds of ships filled the cavernous bay. Not broken, not drifting. Alive. Asterisk. They were Terran craft, but rebuilt, transformed. Carriers reinforced with black alloy, cruisers lined with strange energy conduits, fighters humming with power Elias had never seen. Every ship bore the faint scars of old battles, but each had been reforged into something new. It was the Terran fleet. Hidden, waiting. Cale whispered in awe. "You did not vanish. You evolved." Elias' chest tightened. His people were alive. They hadn't been destroyed. They had chosen to disappear. But why? The soldiers pushed them into a secure chamber. Inside waited a woman, tall, lean, her uniform black with silver trim. Her gaze was sharp, her hair tied back with military precision. "Elias Vance," she said, her voice cold but steady. "I know your name. We monitor everyone who leaves Earth. Elias stiffened. Then you know I fought. You know I bled for Terra. What the hell is this? Where's the fleet? Why the secrecy? The woman studied him for a long moment before answering. I am Commander Mara Keen, and you were never meant to see this place. Kale bristled. Then why not kill us and be done with it? Mara's eyes flicked to him, calm but dangerous. Because you know too much already. And because, she hesitated, just slightly. Because Vance may still have a use. Elias stepped forward despite the guards. What happened out here? The Council thinks we're extinct. The galaxy thinks Earth is defenseless. You faked. Why? Mara's expression hardened. She turned toward the viewport, overlooking the fleet. Because the galaxy was never our enemy. Elias frowned. What? She faced him again, her eyes dark. You think we built these ships to fight? The Dominion? The Syndicate? The Thal? No. We vanished because something worse is coming. Something none of them are ready for. The words sank like lead in Elias' gut. Kale's frills trembled. Worse? Worse than the Dominion? Mara's jaw tightened. You've seen the Expanse. You've seen its storms. But what you haven't seen are the things that live beyond it. Elias' breath caught. He remembered the shattered ships, the wreckage, the silence. You're saying it wasn't just anomalies? Mara nodded grimly. The Expanse is a border. On the other side, something waits, something old. We've glimpsed them. Machines, vast, relentless. They consume, strip worlds bare, and move on. We call them the Hollow. Kale hissed, frills wide. I have heard legends. Ghosts. That devour suns. I thought them myths. They're real, Mara said. And they're coming. Humanity disappeared not to hide, but to prepare. Elias staggered back, heart pounding. The pieces fell into place. The fleet hadn't been destroyed. They had chosen exile. They were building, waiting, watching Dot. But if the Hollow were real, Elias clenched his fists. Then why keep it secret? Why let the galaxy believe Earth was gone? Mara's gaze hardened. Because the galaxy wouldn't believe us. Because they'd squabble, argue, fight for power, waste precious years. Only humanity had the will to vanish, to prepare in silence. Her words burned. Elias understood the logic, but it tasted bitter. His friends, his family back on Earth, living under constant fear while the Council declared them extinct. The loneliness, the grief, all because of this secret. Kale snapped his tail against the floor. And what of all eyes? What of trust? You let the galaxy think you were dead while you built weapons in the shadows. You expect them to welcome you when you reveal this? Mara's expression didn't waver. They will have no choice. The chamber fell silent, the hum of engines filling the void. Then Mara stepped closer, her gaze piercing Elias. But you, Vance, you shouldn't be here. You've seen too much. The question is, do you stand with us or against us? Elias met her stare. His throat felt dry, his heart racing. She wasn't asking. She was demanding. Kale leaned close, whispering just loud enough for Elias to hear. Careful, my friend. This woman does not ask questions. She gives ultimatums. Elias swallowed hard. His mind churned. He had proof now. Proof humanity still lived. Proof of their plan. But if Mara was right, if something truly worse than the Dominion was coming, he had to choose. Before he could answer, alarms blared through the chamber. Red lights flashed. Voice shouted over the comms. Commander, Dominion scouts have breached the Expanse. They've spotted the fleet. Mara's eyes narrowed, her calm breaking for the first time. Impossible. They shouldn't even know we're here. Kale stiffened. The Council. Ilias' stomach dropped. Of course. The Dominion must have tracked them. Mara barked orders. Arm the fleet. Prepare for silent launch. No one can leave alive. The guards raised their weapons again, turning toward Elias and Kale. Elias' blood ran cold. They hadn't just uncovered the truth. They doomed the secret. Asterisk the hidden armada. The alarms shook the chamber, red strobes bathing the steel walls. Elias felt the weight of every gaze. Mara's soldiers, Kale's tense frills, and the looming decision before him. Dominion scouts, the voice repeated over comms. 3 ships. They've entered visual range. Mara's jaw clenched. Seal the hangars. No transmissions. No one leaves without my command. Elias took a step forward, his heart hammering. Wait, if they've seen you, it's too late for silence. You can't erase this. The galaxy will know. Mara's eyes snapped to him. Cold, dangerous. We'll decide what the galaxy knows. The soldiers' rifles hummed as they leveled toward Elias and Kale. Kale's frills spread wide in alarm. This is madness. You can't silence everyone who learns the truth. Mara ignored him. She spoke to Elias instead. You wanted answers. You have them. Now you choose. Do you stand with your people? Or do I feed your corpse to the storm outside? The room froze. Elias' throat felt dry. He saw the fleet in. His mind, carriers reforged, cruisers bristling with strange energy, hidden for years. His chest ached with pride and anger both. I stand with humanity, he said at last. But if you think you can bury this forever, you're wrong. The truth will spread. Maybe not today, but it will. Mara studied him for a long moment, then lowered her hand. The soldiers eased their weapons slightly. Good, she said softly. And you'll help me. Elias let out a shaky breath, though Kale muttered under his breath, Your human loyalty is going to kill us both. They were escorted to the command bridge. The view that met Elias stole his breath. The armada stretched out before him, vast and terrible. Carriers like floating fortresses, bristling with dark alloy plating. Destroyers etched with glowing conduits. Squadrons of fighters swarming like insects in precise formations. The entire vanished Terran fleet, not destroyed, not lost, but reborn. Kale whispered in awe. It is like looking at ghosts of steel. Elias felt his chest swell. This was the truth hidden from the galaxy. Humanity hadn't vanished. They had stepped into the shadows to prepare for something greater. Asterisk. Yet pride was tempered with dread. The Dominion scouts were already here. On the bridge, officers worked with silent efficiency. Screens lit with tactical overlays, pulsing red. Where the Dominion ships moved through the expanse storms. They've seen too much, one officer said. We must eliminate them. Another shook his head. If we strike, their distress beacons will reach the council. Our cover will be Blaung. Mara stood tall at the center, eyes sharp. They already suspect. Whether or not they transmit, the galaxy will soon know. The question is, do we reveal ourselves on our terms or theirs? Elias stepped closer, voice steady. Then reveal. Yourselves. Stop hiding. If the hollow are real, you'll need allies, not corpses. Mara's gaze flicked to him, unreadable. For a moment, the bridge was silent, but for the hum of the fleet's engines then she nodded. Signal the fleet. Prepare for open emergence. The order rippled through the ship like a storm. Moments later, the hangar gates opened. Elias and Kale stood at the viewport as the hidden Terran fleet surged into motion. Carriers slid from their docks. Destroyers ignited engines. Fighters swarmed into the expanse. From the storms of fractured space, the Dominion scouts emerged, sleek, silver craft, scanning beams sweeping. Their lights froze as they spotted. The armada for one heartbeat. Silence. Then the void erupted with motion. Asterisk, the scouts turned, engines flaring. One transmitted a burst of encoded signals before vanishing into the storm. They've sent word. An officer snapped. Mara's eyes narrowed. Then it begins. Hours later, Elias and Kale sat in the war room, hollow projections filling the space. Reports poured in from across the sector. The Dominion Council had declared Terra a threat to galactic stability. If the humans had faked their disappearance, they argued, that it was proof of deception, proof of dangerous intent. Already, fleets were mobilizing. They're going to attack Earth. Kale whispered, horror on his face. Elias clenched his fists. They think Earth is weak. They think the fleet is gone. They'll strike the whole world first. Mara nodded grimly. Exactly as we planned. They'll come to finish off a wounded animal. Instead, they'll find we've been sharpening our teeth. Asterisk Kale turned on her, frills flaring in fury. You wanted this. You wanted them to attack, so you could reveal your fleet in glory. Mara's expression did not change. Sometimes the enemy must make the first move. Otherwise, allies doubt your strength. Elias' stomach turned. She was ruthless, yes, but not wrong. The galaxy wouldn't listen to warnings. But they might listen to overwhelming proof. Still, the cost would be high. Earth will burn if we don't get there in time, he said. Asterisk Mara's eyes met his, hard as steel. Then you'd better pray we're fast enough. The fleet assembled. For the first time in years, Terran engines roared as one. Elias stood on the bridge as they see out. Armada surged into formation, black holes gleaming, weapons humming with alien-forged energy. It was beautiful, terrifying. Asterisk. Kale's voice was hushed. If the Dominion sees this, they will never trust you again. They will see only monsters who hid in the dark. Maybe, Elias said softly, but they'll also see hope, because when the hollow come, nothing else will stand. The fleet's jump engines ignited. Space warped, bending light itself. Mara raised her hand. Set course for Earth. Let the galaxy watch. The fleet leapt into the stars that far across the galaxy. The Dominion Armada was already moving, massive warships streaking toward Earth, but leaving it unguarded. They carried fire and certainty, both convinced this would be the end of humanity. But deep in the void, the vanished Terran fleet was coming home. Elias gripped the railing as the stars stretched around them, heart racing. His people were not gone. They were not defeated. They were returning, stronger than anyone could have imagined. Yet beneath the pride, a shadow stirred in his gut. Because if Mara was right, the Dominion wasn't the real enemy. The Hollow were still out there, waiting beyond the storm. And humanity's return was only the beginning. Asterisk. Fire across the star's Earth skies had never looked so vulnerable. From orbit, Dominion warships loomed like predators, silver leviathans bristling with weapons, their shadows cutting across oceans and continents. Cities below scrambled into defense protocols, sirens wailing. Old Terran planetary guns rumbled to life, but against the Dominion Armada, they were pebbles thrown at a tidal wave. The Council had declared humanity extinct. Now they meant to make it true. On Earth's surface, people watched the heavens with fear. Some prayed, some prepared weapons of their own. Others whispered the bitter truth. Their fleet was gone. No rescue was coming. And then the stars split open. A ripple tore across the void, light bending, engines howling. Out of the expanse they came, black-armored carriers, destroyers with glowing conduits, fighters swarming in disciplined wings. The vanished Terran fleet surged into Earth's orbit, engines blazing like meteors. The Dominion warships froze. For a single heartbeat, their sensors struggling to comprehend. Then the void erupted in fire. Elias stood on the bridge of Mara's flagship. knuckles white on the railing. The Terran fleet opened fire with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Beams of compressed plasma that sliced through Dominion shields like paper. Missiles wrapped in dark energy fields that bent space as they struck. Dominion ships reeled, their formations breaking as explosions bloomed across the stars. "Targets down," an officer shouted. 7 warships destroyed in the first volley. Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Elias didn't cheer. His gut twisted. He had seen war before, felt its heat. He knew victory never came without a price. The Dominion retaliated. Silver ships surged forward, weapons screaming. Earth's orbit became a storm of light and metal. Fighters clashed in swarms, trails of fire streaking across the black. Carriers traded volleys, shields flaring and collapsing. A Terran destroyer exploded in silence, its pieces scattering across the void. Like embers, Kale gripped the railing beside Elias, frills pressed tight to his head. "This is madness. I have never seen power like this." Elias nodded grimly. "Neither has the Dominion." Mara stood at the center, issuing orders with icy calm. Focus fire on their command ship, break their chain of command. A dozen Terran ships converged firepower on the Dominion flagship, a colossal vessel bristling with spires. Shields flared, then shattered. Explosions rippled down its hull until it cracked apart, vanishing in a burst of fire. The Dominion formation wavered. Some ships fled. Others pressed harder, determined to crush Earth before retreat. Status of planetary defenses? Mara demanded, struggling. An officer reported, shields failing over New Shanghai. Civilian casualties rising in South America. Elias' stomach twisted. The fleet fought above, but below, billions of lives hung in the balance. He turned sharply. "We have to protect the planet, not just win a battle in orbit." Mara's eyes snapped to him. "We win here, Vance, or Earth burns anyway." Her words were cold, but true. Still, Elias felt the weight of every voice screaming from the planet below. The battle raged on. Dominion ships fell in burning trails. But the Terran fleet took losses too. A carrier split apart under concentrated fire. A cruiser was pierced clean through, spinning into the atmosphere below. Elias clenched his fists. For every Dominion wreck, human lives paid the cost. And then something shifted. Sensors flickered. Space rippled with distortions. Officers shouted over one another. Multiple signatures inbound. Dominion reinforcements? No. Not. Dominion. Unknown. Elias' blood ran cold. He remembered Nara's words. The hollow dot from the edge of the system. Shapes emerged. Vast, angular constructs, unlike any ship Elias had ever seen. They glowed faintly with cold light, their movements impossibly precise, not organic. Not alive. Machines. They drifted forward, silent and inexorable. Dominion and Terran alike ceased fire for a heartbeat. Stunned. And the newcomers attacked. Beams of pale energy lanced out, slicing through Dominion cruisers as though they were paper. Whole ships crumpled, stripped to nothing in seconds. Terran fighters that moved too close winked out of existence, reduced to drifting dust. The hollow had arrived. Panic rippled across the Dominion lines. Ships scattered, fleeing in every direction. Some tried to regroup, only to be gutted by mechanical beams. The Terran fleet reeled. Officers shouted warnings, systems overloaded. Kale's frills flared in terror. "Gods, Elias, those things, I know," Elias said hoarsely. Eyes locked on the impossible sight. "They're real." Mara's voice cut through the chaos, steel unbroken. "All ships regroup. Form on me. We hold the line for Earth." Terran ships rallied, turning their guns on the hollow. Beams and missiles struck, shattering pieces of the machines. For a moment, Hope sparked. Asterisk, but for every one destroyed, 2 more emerged from the void. Commander, an officer shouted, "We can't hold them. There are too many." Mara's eyes blazed. "We will hold them. If Earth falls, there is nothing left." Elias gripped the railing, sweat on his brow. This wasn't just war. It was survival. He realized in that moment that humanity's secret wasn't about beating the Dominion. It was about preparing for this. The Dominion wanted to wipe out humans. The Hollow wanted to wipe out everyone. The battlefield dissolved into chaos. Dominion ships fled blindly. Terran vessels fought desperately. Hollow constructs advanced, without pause. Earth hung below, blue and fragile, caught between titans. Elias' heart pounded. Humanity had returned. Their fleet had revealed itself. But the true war had only just begun. Kale whispered, voice trembling, "If this is the enemy you prepared for, then perhaps you did not prepare enough." Elias swallowed hard. "Maybe not, but we're the only ones who will try." A massive hollow construct surged forward, easily twice the size of a Dominion carrier. Its beams sliced across space, tearing apart 2 Terran cruisers in a single strike. Alarm screamed. Mara's officers shouted for orders. And for the first time, Elias saw something in Mara's eyes that chilled him. Not rage, not resolve. But doubt. Asterisk, the truth beyond the expanse. Hollow came like a tide. Their constructs moved with terrifying precision, beams slicing through Dominion stragglers and Terran ships alike. Earth's orbit was a graveyard of burning wrecks. And still the machines advanced. On Mara's flagship, alarm screamed. Shields down to 30%. Secondary batteries offline. 2 destroyers lost. Elias gripped the railing, his throat dry. He had seen battles before, but nothing like this. The Hollow weren't fighting for territory, for pride, or for revenge. They were stripping the battlefield clean, like farmers harvesting a field. Kale's frills twitched violently, his voice a rasp. "They are not enemies. They are executioners." Elias looked at him, heart hammering. "And executioners don't stop until there's nothing left." Mara stood tall, her voice cutting through the chaos. "All ships, fall back to planetary orbit. Defend the shield lines." Asterisk, the fleet pulled closer to Earth, weapons blazing. Fighters swarmed the hollow constructs, missiles detonating in desperate flashes. For every enemy they destroyed, more emerged from the rift at the edge of the system. "This isn't working," Elias growled. "We'll bleed ourselves dry before we slow them down." Mara's eyes locked on him, cold, calculated. "You think I don't know that?" Asterisk, "Then what's the plan?" Elias shot back. "You vanished for 10 years. You built weapons, ships, tech the galaxy's never seen. Don't tell me you didn't plan for this." The bridge fell silent. Even Kale's frantic breaths slowed. Mara turned, eyes burning with something between fury and grief. "We planned, but planning has a cost." The ship trembled as a hollow beam skimmed the shields. Sparks showered the bridge. Mara spoke over the din. "The fleet vanished because we had no choice. We found the Hollow years ago, out in the dark. We knew fighting them with the galaxy as it was, divided, arrogant, blind, would be suicide. So we cut ourselves off. We disappeared. We built what we could, trained how we must, and we prepared for this day." Her words were sharp, each one like steel. Elias' stomach sank. "Prepared? Mara, we're losing. If this is preparation, it's not enough." For the first time, Mara's mask cracked. Pain flickered in her eyes. Because the last step of the plan was never meant to be a battle. Kale stepped forward, his voice thin with fear. "Then what? What is it you hid from us all this time?" Mara hesitated. The ship shook again. The Hollow loomed larger on the view screen, their beams tearing. Apart another Terran frigate. Finally, she whispered, "A signal." Elias blinked. "What?" "A failsafe," Mara said. "Not a weapon, not a fleet, a message. We couldn't defeat the Hollow alone. We could only call for help." Elias' mind reeled. "Call who?" Mara's eyes hardened. "The ones who built the Hollow. The ones who left this galaxy long before your council was born. The ancients." Gasps rippled across the bridge. Kale staggered back, his frills trembling. "That's impossible. The ancients are myths." Mara's voice cut like a blade. "So were humans once." Elias' hands tightened into fists. It made sense, and yet it was madness. Humanity hadn't vanished to hide. They'd vanished to listen, to search for the last echoes of a species. That might hold the key. And if they don't answer? Elias asked, his voice low. Mara's gaze didn't waver. "Then Earth burns, and the galaxy with it." The Hollow closed in, their largest construct drifting toward Earth, its core glowing with cold light. If it fired, the planet itself would split apart. Mara snapped at her crew. "Prepare the beacon." Officers scrambled, inputting codes, rerouting power. The ship trembled as systems dimmed, energy flowing into something deep within its core. Elias turned to Mara, voice fierce. "You're betting everything on a ghost story." Mara finally looked at him, not as a soldier, not as a commander, but as a human. "It's not a ghost story, it's faith. The same faith that brought us out of caves, across oceans, into the stars. Humanity survives because we believe there is always an answer, even when no one else does." Elias had no reply. His chest ached. He wanted to argue, to scream. But deep down, he knew she was right. The beacon flared. A pulse of energy surged outward, brighter than any star, racing into the dark. Every ship, Terran, Dominion, Hollow, shuddered as the wave passed. And then, silenced at the Hollow paused. Their beams flickered. Their perfect formations faltered, as though they had felt the signal. Seconds dragged like hours. Nothing happened. No saviors appeared. Kale's voice trembled. It failed. Mara's jaw tightened. Her fists curled. For the first time, Elias saw her look. Defeated, the Hollow resumed their advance. Elias' heart sank. This was it. Humanity had gambled everything, then lost. He looked at Kale, at the crew, at the terrified officers who had followed Mara into fire. He thought of the billions below, watching the skies burn. He couldn't accept it. He wouldn't. No, he sighed, his voice breaking. It didn't fail. Heads turned. Kale stared at him. "What are you saying?" Elias' voice shook, but grew stronger with each word. "The signal isn't about them. It's about us. About showing the galaxy that we're not running, not hiding, not bowing. Humanity doesn't quit. We don't kneel. That beacon tells. Everyone out there, Dominion, Hollow, anyone listening, that if they want this galaxy, they'll have to take it from us." His words hung in the air, raw and defiant. And then, the stars answered. The void rippled. Light blazed at the edge of the system, brighter than the sun. Shapes emerged, vast, elegant, impossibly ancient. Ships unlike anything built by human or Dominion hand, flowing like liquid metal, their forms shifting as though alive. The bridge fell silent. Kale whispered, "Ancients." The Hollow froze. Their constructs trembled, then turned, beams faltering. For the first time, the machines looked hesitant. The ancient fleet drifted forward, silent and immense. One ship glided to the front, its form unfolding into something vast and radiant. A voice, not spoken but felt, filled every mind across the system. we heard. The hollow turned their full power toward the newcomers. Beams flared, void trembled, and the ancients answered Dot with a single pulse of light. The largest hollow construct shattered into dust. Another beam rippled, dismantling 3 more in silence. The machines faltered, their perfect rhythm broken. For the first time in countless ages, the hollow retreated. The ancients had returned. On the bridge, relief crashed over the crew like a wave. Officers wept openly. Cale collapsed to his knees, trembling. Elias simply stood there, staring at the impossible sight. Humanity had gambled everything on faith, and won. Mara exhaled slowly, her shoulders dropping. For once, her steel mask cracked, and Elias saw the woman beneath, weary, grieving, but unbroken. She looked at him. "Now do you understand why we vanished?" Elias nodded, voice rough. "Yeah, you weren't hiding. You were waiting." Mara turned back to the stars. Not waiting, preparing. The battle was over, but the war was not. The hollow had retreated, not been destroyed. Dominion survivors scattered, their arrogance shattered. The ancients had returned, but their intentions were their own. Dot. As the fleet drifted in the afterglow of survival, Cale stood, his frills trembling. "Elias? What happens now?" Elias looked at Earth, fragile and scarred, but alive. He thought of humanity's history, of fire in caves, of sails on oceans, of rockets piercing the sky. He placed a hand on Cale's shoulder. Now we do what humans always do. We fight, we build, we endure, and we make damn sure the galaxy never forgets us again." Mara's voice was low, but firm. "The war for survival has just begun, and humanity will lead it. Above them, the ancient ships glowed like silent gods, watching. The future was uncertain. The hollow would return. The Dominion would scheme. The galaxy would tremble, but humanity had shown its hand. Compassion, defiance, faith. The mysterious fleet had not vanished. It had been waiting for this moment. Dot, and when the stars called, humanity had answered. Asterisk.